3, 2, 1, and we are live with episode 18 of the All In Loyalty podcast. All things loyalty, all in one place. Basically, always the place where you want to come back every 2 weeks to keep track and keep up to date of everything that's happening in the loyalty ecosystem. There's more than enough that's happening all the time. We've had 18 episodes now, and we have had no shortage of things to talk about. In fact, it's been the other way around, I would say. We've had a plethora of different topics, and we've had to sort of narrow them down into our favorites. And then in addition to that, you notice we like talking about them so much that most of the time we actually only end up covering a couple less of them because there's so much interesting stuff to break down. There's a lot of surface level interest, I think, as well in loyalty in general. But where it really starts to get interesting, and I'm sure to you guys as well, is when you really start to get down into those granular details, when you start talking data, when you start talking customer behavior, when you start talking about all of these different factors that lead into making a very cool, very good loyalty program that people are excited to come back to. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. But for now, we usually always start with our little weather chats. So, Gabriella, it's hot over here. I've had to keep my window open most of the evening just so I can survive in my office right now because my PC is a heater, unfortunately, for this small room that I'm in. But how are things looking on your end? How are you doing more generally as well?
Doing good. A few short nights now. There's a lot going on at Kiwi, so working a lot, but no, doing well. I'm super happy that finally the weather also here in Switzerland is doing better. We're still like in between 12 and 30 degrees, so that's a bit of a high volatility, but it's fine. I'm used to Swiss weather, and I'm happy when it's warm. Usually, I'm on the balcony then working.
Sounds good. Gianluca, on your side, it seems ever unchanging, staying indoors in the nice air-conditioned room, right?
I don't know why, but the moment Gabriella was saying that in Switzerland it's still between 12 and 30 and it's a high volatility weather, I was thinking, why isn't there a prediction market on Swiss weather? If it's so volatile, I'm sure there's a lot of people trading it.
Do you think you could bet that in like approximately 45 minutes it's going to start raining, and then
Exactly.
you'll be able to know or not?
You probably win. No, here it's not as volatile. Pretty flat, I think, around 38-ish degrees, around there. So yeah. But again, we have AC. I bet you, even though we have 38 degrees outside, I'm probably doing well
better than
compared
us.
to you with the heater, with the PC, and with no AC.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It's interesting. It's interesting to the point where we actually think about getting an AC unit ourselves. But then you also realize that it's only hot for like 2 months or something throughout the entire year. So yeah, it's kind of a choice that has to be made. But anyway, we get into this all the time. It's always it's just always very interesting to me. I don't know. We had like a huge thunderstorm last night, and so for me, it just feels so unpredictable sometimes. But we'll dive straight into some of the more interesting parts of the recent media covering the loyalty landscape. And most recently, we've had, honestly, one of my favorite sort of business speakers who has appeared on LoyaltyTV. He's called Rory Sutherland. I don't know what his official title is, but he is really into behavioral psychology and the impact that has on business, on marketing in particular, and of course how that pertains to loyalty. So he appeared, he did a 1-hour interview on LoyaltyTV, and he gave a couple of very interesting takes. I don't know if we're going to be able to cover all of them, but there's a couple of highlights in here that I would love to break down with you guys so that we can actually get into sort of some of the more human, some of the more behavioral sides to the loyalty landscape that I think nowadays, with all of these precisely calculated AI-driven points programs, is something that starts to become slightly overlooked. You giggled a little bit, Gianluca. What is it?
I was also gonna make a comment, but I didn't make it in the intro. You didn't mention AI.
Yeah, for the first time.
How dare
But we're going to
you.
be getting into it now. It is actually one of the topics for today, or at least one of the minor ones. So we're definitely doing that. But
Nice.
if you guys don't know who Rory Sutherland is, look him up. If you just type in his name on YouTube, you get all of these different like interviews that he's a part of, and this is what he does. Like, he just delivers bombs whenever he speaks. And yeah, he was on Modern Wisdom as well twice now, and those are some of my favorite interviews on that show. But first and foremost, he has appeared and started talking about basically the relationship between the consumer, between the business, and between both the leadership side of the business and the finance side of the business. So let's just dive in straight to the first clip, and then we're going to gauge a couple of reactions. This one's a little over a minute long.
This is going to possibly be a bit disturbing. The problem a lot of businesses have is the customer and the marketer want to be in a relationship, but the finance, they want a marriage, but the finance director thinks they're running an escort agency.
Yes, I'm familiar with this one, actually.
Okay.
We encounter this quite a lot at work.
So financial metrics simply look at the here and now. They don't look at a what you might call a longitudinal view of customer value. They look at a snapshot view of transactional value. And that leads to an awful lot of effectively dissonance, I think, between what the customer expects from a business and what a business is trying to do. Yeah. And I think the magic is in resolving that contradiction. And loyalty programs or mechanics or whatever it may be are just one mechanism of doing that. In a relationship, you have a degree of non-explicit give and take. Yeah. You know, nobody actually takes their spouse and evaluates them daily on a, key performance indicators, because you value the relationship as a whole. Yeah. And what we're in danger of doing is, which I think we're doing in lots and lots of other ways as well, is becoming too granular about what we measure. Yeah. That not every transaction has to make money in and of itself. There are great business activities which are simply an investment in the relationship.
So, Gabriela, you seem to disagree. Do you have relationship KPIs?
Obviously, I have a loyalty program. I give points.
Do you talk to the girlfriend and say, "Hey, listen, you're running a little bit low on your numbers in the past week. I'm going to need you to."
It starts already with the dating phase. I already from the first date on, register here, please. I will distribute points.
What is the currency called?
You have, huh? G
what
point.
Is the loyalty currency? G point.
Very nice.
You have different levels that you can achieve, like a different status. Dating status, girlfriend status, fiance, wife.
The tiers.
Yeah, so obviously it's a tier-based
Quickly
program.
moving on. So he talks about the relationship between the customer and the marketer versus the relationship then between, I guess, the marketer and the finance guy, because there's a couple of very different perspectives and the way that they approach things. This has always been the case in businesses, and he talks about sort of, the dissonance between those two departments. One of the main things, for example, just to give a bit of context, back when I was working at Sky, I was kind of the link between the project management department and the creatives. They speak entirely different languages if you talk to those two groups of people, and half of what I had to do was to be able to translate, one group to the other. And this was seen as a very important role, because a lot of the time, if a project manager tries to talk directly to a creative, there will be some sort of misunderstanding, some sort of clash in attitude difference, whatever it is. And in this case, if you're talking about marketing and finance, it does seem to be in that way. So he talks about the longitudinal view of the relationship between the marketer and the consumer, talking about this relationship thing, talking about how it doesn't always have to derive value on the given day, but that it's more about, the relationship as a whole. Or the other way, which, the more financial people say it, which is, okay, we're doing this action, but it's not generating us any income now. It does sort of feel like there is always space, especially when the businesses start to get bigger, to have understanding between these departments. But I would be curious if either of you guys maybe have some kind of experience when it comes to this sort of area, or if you've noticed, with some of the bigger clients, for example, if when you talk to one department versus the other, how they approach it, what the value is. I'm sure when you guys speak to, aspiring partners, some people will be like, okay, but how am I going to make money off of this and when? Versus, oh, I think our customers are really going to love this. They're going to be so happy. They're going to love our brand. So how about a little breakdown about the quote so far? What do you think, Gabriele, about his marriage versus escort agency analogy?
I like the analogy, but I'm wondering more why she said after that she has experience with that, with marriage or with managing an escort agency.
So I wasn't sure whether to leave that part in, but yeah.
That was one question that I had. No, I mean, makes absolutely sense. There is for sure a disconnect between, and I think it has different reasons, disconnect between, let's say, a marketing department that spends money on different activities and the CFO that basically has to release that budget. I think the disconnect lies, I have two main points that I have in mind. Like, one is for sure that CFOs, don't want to say most of the time, but a lot of times they're focused on finance, so they understand the business less detailed level than, of course, the marketeer that actually thinks about that activity, let's say, plans the whole campaign, for example, et cetera, and the CFO that kind of gets a snapshot of, hey, I need money for this, right? So there is for sure a disconnect on that side. The other one is that, actually there are 3 points. The other one is the tracking of the different activities, meaning that you have certain activities that are very, very clear. Like very clear to a certain extent. If I make, for example, some Instagram ads, then I know I can literally track from like end to end, did this specific activity bring me money or not? So I can also explain it to my CFO much better because I have maybe some historical data. And that's my third point, I can actually make a forecast, right? So I can say, hey, look, we spent this amount of money on Instagram ads. It brought us this amount of revenue. You can split it down between existing and new customers that it brought. So you can basically clearly show the value behind it, right? This gets a bit more difficult when you can't track it. So also what Rory just said, like if you invest in the relationship and further down the line, it will actually bring you money, right? That's something that is quite difficult for a lot of companies to track. And for that reason, also to them basically make forecasts when they actually ask for additional budget. So I think those are 3 problems that I see where you have that issue. And obviously it has an impact on all kinds of conversation. I mean, also us internally when we have to, let's say, agree on certain campaigns, on where do we place certain amount of budget, etc. Discussing with our CFO exactly the same issues. And you have that also in customer conversation. So as soon as we're talking with a client of ours, you have obviously the question, okay, how much money will I actually generate with it? And that again has a lot of different dependencies. Like on one side is we can show you where it actually has an impact on, right? But on the other side, we need the data to actually be able to prove it to you, right? So if you as a client already, your kind of database is not really strong, and I'm not talking about the technical database, I'm like talking about the based on how much data can you actually source and you see, it will be super difficult for us to actually show you how much more cash you generate, right? So, and that also then has an implication for that specific client, because we're talking maybe to the marketeer, right? The marketeer has to go to the CFO and has to convince them to actually release that budget. And also, to be honest, I mean, the bigger the companies, the more you have also clear budgets that are being defined, where let's say you have a yearly budget that the marketing department receives, and then they can kind of work with it, right? And they have to hit certain revenue goals. So it's almost never that you have to go back to your CFO for single activities if you don't need more budget, basically. So yeah, that issue is 100% real. The escort agency vs marriage. Yeah,
I think it was a great analogy. One's transactional.
It's a nice headline. Let's
one's
put
emotional.
it that way.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know. Like, obviously, as a marketer, I mean, for me, what I'm thinking about is, in theory, everyone in the company should see it as a marriage, because, and I mean, at the end of the day, the client pays you, so you're the escort and not the client. Like, if you think about it, so. From my perspective, everyone should be aligned on, hey, we actually want to build a long-term relationship with our clients, right? As long as possible. Like, literally, you go into a marriage, you don't think about this is like a one-time thing and then I'm done. You actually think about being the whole life together, and the same view a company should have on customers, right? Because at the end of the day, the longer customer stays with you, just like there's so many benefits from obviously a revenue perspective, but then you get word of mouth. You like, if the longer the relationship goes, the more value you can actually both sides can actually get out, right? So yeah, the CFO.
It's good.
I mean, all the CFOs should just think the same way and not think about escorts. Think about love. You want to make sweet love to your customers, and you want to keep that marriage alive as long as possible.
Quote of the day.
Yeah, probably.
Make sweet love to your customers.
Yeah.
Since episode one, Gabriele has been making like relationship analogies with the loyalty space, and that's because they're just that relevant.
It is a relationship. I mean, like, it is really a relationship to customers and clients. Like, there is nothing,
and it's a long-term.
I mean, if you look at it transactionally, then from my perspective, you almost always lose, because
it's the usual want of just acquiring and not retaining. It's just that concept.
100%.
I think that's also something that we hear. I mean, I've not been in the sales part or actively in the sales part of the business for a moment now, but I remember when I was doing it as well, a lot of the conversation was really, how do I acquire customers with this? You know, or even when it's a loyalty program conversation, or loyalty in general, like, doesn't have to do with programs or that specifically. Oftentimes businesses are asking, how do I acquire, or they think, okay, this is going to acquire me new customers, instead of thinking that's retaining customers. You know, I would agree though with the whole data topic. I think that's where the miscommunication or the mismatch happens. And actually, one analogy or one thing I was thinking about is the usual peanuts or crackers at a bar, or olives, salty olives at a bar. If you go to a bar or any place and they just put tasty salty crackers in front of you and you love them, you start eating them, I swear, I guarantee 100% of the time someone will order a drink. There's no chance you're gonna eat a handful of peanuts that are salty or crackers that are salty and not want to quench the thirst. You know,
most probably you go to the bar to have a drink and you just get the peanuts. It's not that you go for the peanuts and then that pushes you to.
I mean, more. I didn't mean not the acquisition of the first drink. I mean the continuation.
I give you peanuts. Come to me.
See, that's the
free peanuts. Oh
free
yeah.
Peanuts. No, but actually, hear me out on this. Because one thing I was also thinking about, and this is actually an experience I've had when I was studying in Milan, is that there's this big, I don't think it's a tradition, but it's a thing in Italy. Aperitivo is obviously, like in Italy, a very strong tradition. But the way it's done is you can literally go to these bars / restaurants. They have both, but they're a bit of a mix. And at aperitivo time, they have a massive buffet with a lot of food, like beanie pizzas, fried stuff, everything, olives, cheeses. Like, you go there and you don't think, oh, I'm having some peanuts for my drink. You go there and you know that you spend a certain amount, you get your drink, and you can basically eat for free. Let's put it like that, right? Now, I can see how the marketing person of these aperitivo places was thinking, hey man, the logic is this. If there's salty food on the table and they come here for a drink and they get to eat, they will be ordering so much more in terms of drinks because they'll be thirsty, because we give them salty food, right? And the finance person's thinking in that moment, hey man, what is this massive budget of free food that no one is paying for, right? And to complete that analogy with what I wanted to say about the data is, the most important part, in my opinion, is to just be able to deliver and show how this cycle of they come here for the drink, they stay here for more drinks because I offered them salty food, or because I offered them an extensive aperitivo buffet, right? And if the marketing person is able to communicate the budget that is being spent for the free food in how it translates to more revenue overall, then I don't think the finance person would have such an issue in providing the budget for that, because then it's a very clear spend. If you can say for every 100 peanuts, or 100 grams, that's easier. For every 100 grams of peanuts that we give out for free, we increase the drink amount by 2 instead of 1. So it's 3 drinks per person versus 1 drink per person. And the peanuts cost a fraction of what the alcohol costs. Then you can clearly show that there's an increase in revenue. And therefore, as a retention mechanism and as a little incentive for retention mechanism, it makes sense. And then the budget is warranted. And I think that alignment needs to exist. Otherwise, there's always going to be that mismatch of the finance person looking at a snapshot of money out and where's the money in, versus the marketing person who says, let's deliver value. Let's make the experience better for the person, for the customer coming in.
I mean, I think the main issue lies in following. The finance person most probably understands that give salty food, generate more cash, like sell more drinks.
Yeah, this is an easy, obviously, this is an easy example. There's nuances in.
Let me finish. That is clear, right? Now, look at the buffet basically as a mix of different marketing activities, right? To basically sell more drinks. A good finance person and also a good marketeer would understand, because what it is basically kind of finding that inflection point of how much food do I need to provide to be able to sell this amount. Because the thing is, if I sell 100 drinks in an evening, just as an example, right? And I have 10 items in my aperitivo buffet, the mini pizza, the peanuts, the whatever it is,
cheeses,
the arancini, which are really good. The question is, what food do I need to provide that I sell those 100 drinks? That's where there is, from my perspective, that's where most marketers.
But that's exactly what Rory was talking about, is that we live in a world where you are
obviously
to understand,
because we want to optimize, because everybody wants to optimize.
Is it the peanut with the chili covering, or is it the peanut with the salt covering? And I think what he argues is just make the experience better, give them the peanuts in that sense. On the marketer side, and on the other side is obviously be able to explain to your finance guy why the peanuts are a win. Actually, I forgot to say, I completely agree with you. There is an inflection point, because one thing that I did notice when I was studying Milan is that most people abuse that aperitivo moment as I spend, maybe I get a drink or 2, or I pre-drink or post-drink, but I'm going to have my whole dinner there, because essentially there was no limit on how much you could take.
Well, as a student, I would do that.
Yeah, exactly. Students always did that. They go, oh, cool, I have 1 beer, I have whatever drink, and then I'm just going to have a whole dinner. And then we go buy the post drinks or pre drinks somewhere else.
But that's exactly where I think the issue, let's say the misalignment lies, which at the end of the day makes sense, because if you translate it in let's say out of the aperitivo example, you make 10 different marketing activities, you spend X amount of budget. Can you actually measure what marketing activity brought you what amount of cash, right? And Also, the other thing is, would have that person anyways bought my stuff without all those 10 marketing activities? And that's the same logic with aperitivo. Like, would I still sell the 100 drinks if I only have peanuts, olives, parmigiano, instead of also adding pizza, arancini, right? And I think that's really where the mismatch lies. And
that was actually going to be my next question for you guys. Do you think it has to do, strictly speaking, then with like the competency level of the person in finance? Do you think that if the finance person is, literate, well-educated, understands, for example, customer lifetime value, et cetera, that if a loyalty person or a marketer were to explain, hey, I know you're into data and I know you have your KPIs to hit and everything like that, but if we do this kind of thing, our customer lifetime value is going to increase, and I'll be able to say I told you so in 10 years. But right now I can't really tell you. It's like, how can a finance person then have the wisdom or the wherewithal to actually entertain something like that and be like, okay, maybe this does make sense long term?
Absolutely. I was actually going to say one thing. I saw in what Rory was saying is that the finance person is seeing the snapshot, the marketer is seeing the holistic life cycle of being in this relationship, the customer and the business. Is that I agree, of course, a lot of things that you can do, increase that retention, increase that life cycle, deepen the relationship, and it is an investment that in that moment doesn't necessarily generate revenue. It's an investment cost that will generate more revenue in the future. I agree with that. The only thing that I don't agree so much is that, on the one hand, also to what you were saying, is it's not just the finance guy, because the marketer also needs to have the know-how, the experience, the skills to deliver that information when there's a request for budget. I mean, you can't just say, trust me, bro, this is going to make us 10x in a year, explain how and why and what the data is that backs it up. And especially nowadays with AI, not to go into AI, but just as a general thing that we have, it's also pretty easy to find data on various marketing activities. There's enough literature out there that gives you the data to justify why something makes sense. But to that point, it's not just the finance person to understand the business better, it's also the marketer to communicate the campaign or the loyalty program expenses, costs, whatever it is, to build it or to maintain it. And on the other hand, it's also a topic of, when you say the holistic relationship of the customer and the business, what kind of time frame are you actually looking at? Because I think that gets lost a little bit as well in that conversation. Is I fully agree with investing in customers. I mean, I'm a customer. We're all customers. We're all people, and we are customers to businesses in various ways. And we know intuitively which business we prefer for certain things, because we feel treated the best way we're treated for that service or product, or the product is the best compared to others, and we tend to go there. So obviously there is something to that, but you can't just say, okay, this is overall good for the relationship, they will become better customers that overall spend more. Because if you take that to infinity, it's just, okay, in that customer's whole life, he spent this much with us. Everything that we've done to keep him has cost us this much. So it's literally looking at, what is it? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, is it months? Is it weeks? What is that life cycle people talk about? Because I think also there you lose, I would say you lose also a finance person. Because if a finance person is thinking in quarters, in monthly, quarters, yearly, 5 years, whatever it is, and you come with life, it's so philosophical, and it's so how do you say, feeling driven, that of course the finance guy is going to be like, man, just make sure that we earn more in this quarter because the numbers need to be up, you know. So I think also
That's
there,
true.
it's a bit. I agree with it is people skills. I mean, people and their skills in both positions, though, not just one over the other.
I think it's also, by the way, culture, because you have, for example, like if you're a publicly listed company as an example, obviously you look from quarter to quarter because you have analysts predicting how much you do, blah, blah, you want your share price to increase. So there is a lot of short-term thinking on that side. And that has to do with what kind of culture is, let's say, driven top down from the board, like from shareholders to board, etc. So I think there is a huge difference between that. And if you have a culture that actually thinks about long-term success, right, and long-term value that you want to generate with customers, you have a different approach to that. So you are most probably more open to spend money on stuff that you can't track right now, and then that don't have right now an impact on this revenues quarter. So
True.
I think it's also part of that, because you have a lot of people. That's why also customer acquisition is such a topic that is being pushed, because you see right away a certain result. Like I can spend money on this and then see how many customers came in. Retention is a completely different topic. I mean, think about all the like corporate gifts that are being sent around. Like if a company sends me some chocolate, etc., what does that chocolate actually make? It's not very easy to track if I bought now more because I got some chocolate or because I got, I don't know, a pen or whatever small gift that I received. The same like with when you look at poster, like offline outdoor poster ads, right? Question is, how can you actually track that you spent, I don't know, 200, 300, 400K or even more on that activity, but you can't really track what happens, right? So there are some benchmarks that you can take, but I think that's the biggest issue, is really that a lot of stuff is not trackable. And that's why it's also difficult to create a business case that you can actually present to your CFO or whoever is sponsoring that specific activity. So I think that's one of the biggest issues, is really that one, that you can't really track it. Because if you could track everything and put everything based on data and make clear forecasts, in theory there is zero conversation besides how probable is your business case and how good is your database.
I mean, in itself, it kind of the marketability of it kind of reflects that in and of itself. I mean, a lot of the headlines that we talk about is with these new like hotel programs, for example, this hotel chain has acquired 60 million new users or something like that. Like that's a very marketable thing that makes headlines. But if you're then trying to change the conversation and say, okay, these guys have, I don't know, 10,000 users or 100,000 users that have now been part of the program for 10 years and have like redeemed this much value and everything, it's still really impressive. And if you're someone who's in the loyalty industry, then you're like, wow, what an incredible achievement. It's still not like headline worthy if you say something like that. It's like discussing, you know, Avengers films versus indie films. You know that the indie films tend to be better made, but everybody's still watching the Avengers films because they're just a little bit more flashy. I feel like that's how it is. And honestly, to just recap again, this 1 minute clip that we've somehow been able to discuss for half an hour, it's to A, marketing and finance should talk to each other, and B, it sounds like then just finance people should learn about loyalty ecosystems, and then C, the CEO should change his culture and the whole like understanding of his team around the relationship with the customer. That sounds like those are some of the main takeaways from this one clip in particular. And we're now going to move on to a different one. By the way, all of this kind of culminates into a really interesting like overarching conversation that we're going to have about loyalty programs as a whole, how they're seen, how they're interpreted. But first and foremost, let's listen to what he has to say about Amazon and subscription services in general.
Sort of mentioned, by the way, fascinating story. When Jeff Bezos came up with the idea for Amazon Prime, several people on the board of Amazon threatened to resign if he implemented it.
Gosh.
So it's always worth noting that Amazon Prime doesn't seem that innovative now. It was, however, that mechanic where you pay to belong to a program, I think it deserves being explored much, much more.
Yeah.
Because that's a commitment device. And actually, one of the reasons I think people like them is that sometimes people like choice reduction. That, in an online environment, you have such a massive plethora of different options for doing things that a mechanism which goes, well, I'll go there first, actually makes your life easier.
The subscription service, gentlemen. This is another topic that
I
we're
love
actually
her
also going to
reaction.
get into a bit more. Sorry?
I loved her reaction.
Gosh, very British.
When the board decided or wanted to resign.
Yeah. No, but it's really interesting as well, because he talks about this as a concept, and he talked about Amazon as like the sort of progenitor of the entire thing. But one of the things that we're going to cover a little bit later is actually the fact that, even other subscription services like telecommunications, telco is also getting into the loyalty game with a couple of new loyalty programs that have actually, not necessarily been seen before, because a lot of the time it's about, grabbing customers from something else and learning that the subscription and keeping somebody around is a little bit more important than the acquisition itself, depending on what the company is, of course. But yeah, subscription services. So you pay monthly, you get these guaranteed benefits. We're probably gonna have the bigger conversation later, but what do you guys think, first of all, about his reference to it as a commitment device, and B, whether or not something like this actually does foster the core of the term loyalty, which is, I love these guys, I'm loyal to them, I'm going to stick with them through thick and thin. How about Gianluca? We start you off with this one.
First of all, as a commitment device and making life simpler, I agree 100%, and I see that with myself as well. Here in the UAE, or Dubai specific, I'm sure it's the whole UAE, but I guess Dubai, maybe there's a few more. There's so many delivery services. There's at least 5 I can think of off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's a few more that maybe I'm not so explored into. But one thing that and by the way, they pretty much all offer the same thing. And I would even say that up to 1 year ago, just or 1.5 years ago when I came here, they didn't all offer the same thing. So you knew very well these delivery services offer maybe food and instant shopping, and like within 15 minutes you get whatever you can find. And others were more specifically for other services and so on and so forth, to the point where now literally all delivery services offer the same. There's food, there's general stuff, there's 15 minutes, there's instant. Whatever it is that you're thinking about that you need, you can basically have it, to the point where even Amazon has now the same here in the UAE. There's Amazon Instant, which you literally order it now, you get it in the next 15 minutes.
Sounds like there's some M&A potential there if they're all doing the same thing. But anyway.
True. And one thing that I definitely noticed is just with one of them that I prefer I actually don't know what reason exactly. I just got into it first and I saw, okay, this one was nice. And I then ended up buying their subscription, which is very similar to Uber, the Uber Plus or the other ones, where basically you just have a subscription and it gives you free delivery, it gives you faster delivery, all that stuff, right? So they're all pretty much the same. The moment I got that, I stopped using every other one. If we ever order in food, I don't even go to the others. And I don't even think about, let me check the options on the other, because I know that all the options, as Rory says, they're vast. It's digital. You literally go into everyone, you have hundreds and almost thousands of restaurants to deliver from, or items. So I'm naturally going to go there where I am committed to financially by having the subscription. On the other hand, I'm not sure if Rory specifically, because he says program, I'm not sure if the conversation was specifically on them being loyalty programs.
It wasn't, I'm pretty sure.
No, it wasn't. Okay. But in general, I don't agree with anyone calling those loyalty programs. To me, But that's the big conversation. I think that's the massive conversation. That
you generated a slight head tilt by Gabriele. I saw.
That's like the philosophical question of why do we exist for the loyalty, you know? So it's like, what is loyalty? Boom, boom, boom. To me, the moment you pay and you get a service, a very clear
escort service. That's the escort reference.
It's
you
no,
pay to get the love.
Exactly. There's no emotionality to it. There's no like finding the best way, the optimal way. It's literally, I pay whatever $5 it is per month to this service. I get free delivery, I get faster delivery, and I get, I don't know, something else, I think. I don't even know what all the options are. But it's very clear why I'm doing it. There's no added value that they give to me without me spending for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's every dollar I put in for the subscription is returned with a clear service that I'm paying for, at least to my knowledge, once I decide to go with them. Just like Prime, Amazon Prime, it's very clear what I'm getting for it. It's yeah.
And it's also very clear that if what they were offering were to disappear and suddenly show up with another company, everyone would just migrate to that. They wouldn't say, I'm loyal to Amazon, I'll stick with them.
Or no one's talking about Netflix as a loyalty program. You're paying to view. No, why?
Okay, Gabriele, what's your take on this? Let's hear you break it down.
I mean, the question is really, how do you define a loyalty program? I think I have a kind of a broad view on that. That at the end of the day, loyalty program, you want to create retention. That's like the main goal, is retaining your customers, and you have different ways how to do that. One of those ways could be to say, you know what, commit to me, and I mean, paying money is the highest form of commitment as a customer. And that's why I think that, yeah, it has for sure a retention impact. So deduce from there, you can say it is a loyalty program, right? And at the end of the day, take a free loyalty program, like, I don't know, classic frequent flyer program, etc. You pay the service, flying, for example, and you get some additional on top, right? Some points, some status, some benefits, etc., etc. I don't see a huge difference between I'll pay for that and get those services, or let's say the benefits.
What's then the difference between any service in this world where you pay and
that's
you get
the
something?
thing. I mean, you can also say that at the end of the day, you buy also, like, if I choose a specific airline and I pay their ticket price, that I'm actually spending that money for the whole range of services and products that I receive. So I'm not flying just from A to B. I buy it also because I have, I don't know, a comfortable seat. I have a nice staff that actually is giving an amazing service, right? I have a loyalty program that I can benefit from. I have like X, Y, like there are multiple services that at the end of the day make up the whole customer experience. So I would look at it more from that perspective. Like, I'm buying into a customer experience. I'm not buying into a product. I mean, and that also depends. If I'm buying toilet paper, I don't care about the cost. I mean, I care about the customer experience afterwards when I bought it, but I don't care when I'm going to the grocery store that somebody explains me how soft this this toilet paper is and the amazing benefits of it, and so on. So that's kind of, if you go more towards commodity, I think that becomes less important. But yeah, also, as he said, you have like so many choices in e-commerce space. As soon as you start paying a subscription service somewhere, you are committed to that specific platform, and most probably you will actually reduce the amount of options that you're looking at, and you're going to use that platform specifically. So I think it's more a matter of definition of loyalty program. And if you want to break, I mean, same topic that we had before, do you want to break it down into more philosophical question. Does my customer love me? And leaving love not connected to monetary, or am I actually just, as a company, from a company perspective, do I retain my customers? So amount of frequency and average basket size, and maybe you can measure word of mouth, or like how many referrals do I get from that specific customer, right? So I personally look at it more from that perspective, because if you want, in a business relationship, showing love is, at the end of the day, on one side, I give you the value, like as a customer, I give you the value of, I spend money with you, I refer you. That's basically it. And on the other side, I get an amazing customer experience. And amazing customer experience, again, is like strong product, strong service, strong benefits on top, perks, etc., etc., etc. So I think, again, look, I mean, this is also the conversation that
I have to
later
say,
on, but like, if you go
I do agree. I do agree. Actually, the way you explained it now, one thing that definitely makes sense is maybe rephrasing it as the subscription model of a loyalty program. Let's say, like, the sense that the one that I'm using for this delivery service, where I'm getting free delivery, faster delivery, that others wouldn't get if they're not subscribed. I guess one thing you could say is it's a loyalty program where you, if you see it from a commitment program, then loyalty programs that are not paid, like the classical ones that we all know, like frequent flyer programs, they're commitment programs, because also you choose Marriott Bonvoy or Marriott hotels because you are in the Marriott Bonvoy ecosystem, you have a certain tier, and it makes sense to commit to them so that you keep that status and that you maximize for that loyalty program. So it is a commitment program, and it's essentially, when you pay for it, it's communicated in a different way. One is they built it in to, as you say, you could just look at it from the perspective of the points are just a built-in part of the product or of the service that they offer, versus the other one takes it out of the basic service, which is you can just buy things from our delivery service and we deliver them. And if you pay an extra, we have these benefits that you get from. So it's like separating the two into one, communicating it within the product, and one is separate from the product that you can choose to have, but you don't have to. But yeah, if looking at it from the lens of commitment programs, I agree. Then they're the same thing. One is just communicated as a separate add-on that you pay for, versus the other one is not communicated as a separate add-on that you pay for, but you just get for being a part of it. Yeah.
And how does minimum contract time factor into that equation? Like, what if there's a subscription service and it says, okay, in Germany you have the Mindestlaufzeit, right? The shortest amount of time that it can be active. And with most, if you're talking internet service providers or whatever, that's usually a year. Is that like an entirely different conversation? Is that then like more of a sort of retention, anti-churn rule, or what do companies need to think about there when it comes to people signing up? And I ask this because Rory actually specifically mentions, first slight side note, you talked about Marriott Bonvoy. That was his like #1 favorite loyalty program because of how good and generous they are to their tenured users, so people that have been around for a long time. But he also talks specifically about where was I going with that? Shoot, wait, it just left my head. Yeah, the Mindestlaufzeit. So I was talking about, he talks about how he would like, and he thinks it would be a smart idea to give people the option to pause their subscription. And believes, I mean, he hasn't tested this yet, but he mentions it in the interview, that he believes it would have a strong positive impact on churn if people had the option to do that. Because when they cancel, again, this is more of a psychological thing, but you know, if you pause a subscription and say, okay, I'm not going to be using this for a couple months, I'll pause it and then bring it back, versus actually canceling where it just feels so final that most of the time they won't use something again. I found that part super interesting. And then he was also talking about, even in retrospect, he had offered this to a company, and apparently they're testing it out now, that if a user doesn't use the subscription service for 1 month, they get that month refunded as like an extra sort of, you know, mechanism to add to all of this. So, you know, a lot of this, again, it's kind of experimental. I cannot like attest to the success of it or whether or not it works. It feels like just behaviorally and psychologically, the energy around it is sound. But yeah, what do you think? Maybe about sort of contract period lengths and stuff like that. Is that more, you know, business dependent? Is that more industry dependent, et cetera, et cetera? I'd love to gather maybe some thoughts on this. Gabriele, maybe?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I mean, so first on the whole topic of how long do you want to make it, I think that giving monthly and yearly packages, which like are super normal, like pay a year and then you get like 10-20% off, I think that makes sense, because if somebody's sure that they want to use your service for sure for a year, they actually get a benefit out of it, right? If somebody's still unsure, wants to test it, wants to see how it works, etc., then they get a monthly package. So I think there it's just more giving the right options to your customers so that they kind of have the freedom to choose. On the topic of pausing the subscription, makes sense. Makes absolutely sense. It's completely differently psychologically. I terminate a subscription and I pause a subscription, right? The question is, how are the terms and conditions around it? So if I pause it, what does it mean? You know, like how long can I actually pause it?
It's also probably a hard sell to the finance guys, again, to bring it back over there, you know?
No, I mean, at the end of the day, no, that I wouldn't say, because if my customer terminates with me, it's worse than if the customer pauses the subscription. Again, psychologically,
probably
it's different. But obviously the question is
just a word topic.
Yeah, but the question is like, what if
topic?
What if your customer pauses it for 4 years, 5 years? Is that
That's
still
what
a
I mean.
pause, or did they actually cancel it?
Exactly. If it's just
So
a
that's why-
wording change, then
But that's what I'm saying, like it
technically-
depends on the terms and conditions, because you can say, I mean, I experienced that, for example, I saw that with some gyms where they say, hey, by the way, you can pause the subscription for like 3 months, right? Because maybe, I don't know, you're traveling, you're just like, yeah, basically you're traveling, or you don't use it for a certain period, etc. So that kind of makes sense, because it gives me that freedom of, okay, cool, I don't know, during summer, for example, I will be away a lot, so I don't need actually my gym subscription. I can pause it, and then I can basically benefit from it later, which is actually a big value for you as a customer. You know, you're not wasting 3 months for a subscription on something that you're not using. The topic of giving the money back, I'm on it. In that, I'm kind of very straightforward, in the sense that, like, if I'm buying a product, I mean, and this really, like, I'll make an example. Netflix and I don't know, buying a new car, okay? Just as an example. So Netflix, if I get the money back, or I have to say it differently, when I buy a car, right, or whatever physical product that I have at home, there is nobody checking how often I'm using that. So you just bought it, now you own it, and you do whatever you want with it, right? I don't know why that should be different with a subscription. Like, if I buy a Netflix subscription and I'm not using it, or I'm not using it enough, why should I get money back? Like, I don't really get that part.
It doesn't belong to you. The car
I mean,
belongs to you.
I own a license. Like, to be strictly legal, I own a license to use that platform. So what I bought is a license. And the question is then also, should you then go further and say, hey, a user that actually uses it more should pay more, or should pay the full amount? A user that uses it less should pay less. And then it's kind of like usage based, you know what I mean? So that, with the refunding it, yeah, it could
If anything,
There are different ways to look at it.
Is like going plus ultra. Even just if anything, they would just see usage, and if they don't see usage over a month, for example, they say send out. I mean, I could imagine I would probably appreciate that if I have a subscription service and I don't use it for a month or more. Let's maybe say 3 months. Month could also be other reasons. 3 months, I get an email from them saying, hey, dear Gianluca, we've noticed that for the last 3 months, you haven't been using Netflix, for example. What we've done is we've put your subscription on pause so that you don't have to pay during the time that if you keep on not using it. As soon as you come back to us, you're free to watch anything you want, blah, blah. If I would read that, I was like, oh, snap. Amazing. No, because it's a reminder. And then I go back and I start using it. Then I understand.
Me,
but a refund, I think, is a bit too much.
I mean, imagine following. Most gyms would die. How many people buy a gym subscription just to feel good that they actually have a gym subscription? They never use that gym. I would assume it's like, I don't know, 70% of the customers of a gym are doing that.
Yeah. But gym is a brutal example for this, I feel like. I mean, at least comparing it to Netflix or any subscription service that is digital,
there is more work, but like
it's a bit more brutal. There's so much effort that needs to go in from yourself to make this gym subscription actually worth it.
So for me, honestly, the refund topic doesn't make sense at all. Like, if you want to go in that direction and you want to be fair, then you make it usage based. And you say, you know what? You can, if you again watch, I don't know, 1 series a week, 1 movie a week, you pay X.
I think maybe that as an announcement, as a marketing ploy, where you say you're the only one that does this and the other companies don't.
Yeah, but
I think that would eventually be a kind of a deciding factor for a lot of people.
But it's super.
I mean, if there's a streaming service, you got Netflix, you have Disney, you have Amazon, you have whatever, and you only have enough money to pick one of them, I will pick the one that lets me pause, or the one that lets me, refund when I don't use it, for example.
But at the end of the day,
about that though? Because I'm sure you would go there where you have exactly those movies, those series that you like.
You want to watch.
Because product or let's say service, just that I say product as everything. That will always go over everything. It's not like if they can give you pause, they can give you refunds, they can give you whatever you want. If you open up the site and there's one movie, you're not going to be part of that. So there's no way. I mean, that's an extreme example, of course, but there's no way that you will choose a service with worse product or a product with
more
worse product over another one just because of one small benefit. Also, the other thing is, I think what you're mentioning it's such a good point, because I think that's exactly that marketer versus finance perspective of, you need to know your customers to understand what their behaviors are, so that from a business perspective, you can maximize the revenue while at the same time giving the most value to your customers, because you do exactly what they want, which then ideally results in them wanting more of it and spending more. Like, that would be the ideal match, right? You give them what they want, because you do that, they give you more. And thus you have more revenue, right? So I think the way you worded it now, you phrased it, sounds like like you said, literally said, a marketing ploy. It sounds like that would be something that the marketer would think about. Hey, what if we're the only ones that offer that? But if you don't know the data behind it, that might be also something that costs extreme amount of revenues. That if you wouldn't have done that, if you wouldn't have communicated that, everyone would have still kept going and you would have still earned your revenue, and no one would have been mad anyways, because it's not something that people knew.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think there it's like a match of is that even something that customers want? And if it's something that customers want, why do they want that? Because also there, why would someone go on a pause? At least the way you phrase it, if it's you only have, let's say, an option to choose one of the streaming services to stay on that service type. If that's the assumption you're making, giving your customers a pause means they're literally going somewhere else.
Or
they just don't use it.
Aren't going to watch something and don't want to pay that month.
Yeah. You know, they go a month.
But in essence, they're leaving, right? So giving that option is giving them the ticket to leave.
I'll make another example. Like we're using Digify as a data room software, right? And we don't need all the time a data room. We need a data room where when we're doing a transaction, like for example, a funding round. Yeah. So if I would have to pay, so let's say if we would have to pay Digify basically every month X amount, and we're using it maybe every 2 years for 3 months, because literally only then there is the need for that product.
Yeah.
I don't think that we would use Digify, because we would spend so much money just for those 3 months, right? So giving us the ability to actually put it on hold is the right thing to do, because you understand your customer needs my product only during that time.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, but that's why it's not leaving. Like it's not. It's
no,
not leaving.
I'm saying
if I'm doing a month in Bali without the internet
service. I was talking about
but that's what I'm saying. Like if somebody does a month, if somebody decides to do I don't know on an internet free month for whatever reason, like the dry, what is it called, dry January, no alcohol, they do a dry August without internet.
How many people do that compared to amount of users?
It doesn't. No, but that's what I'm saying. Like obviously you need to understand your customers. And I also think instead of doing these kind of topics, I would more do it usage based. But again, it's I think this is a longer conversation, because it depends from business to business, from ICP to ICP. It depends from how is the, let's say, the whole cash flow tied to your pricing and all of that stuff. Because obviously, I mean, not to forget, all these subscription services are most of the times thought of, okay, I get from every customer the same amount of cash, right? But usage is different. I mean, think about Netflix, right? I have to pay a license to all these filmmakers, and not every film will cost me the same. And every time somebody clicks on it, I actually have to pay something for it. But I know that I get, I don't know, my $20 per month from you, Gianluca, from you, Arnaud, from me, Gabriele, and you maybe watch, I don't know, 20 movies a month, or no watches 5, I watch 10. So there is kind of a mixed calculation that you do there, where I think that if you do it usage based, most of those companies would lose a huge amount of money. That's why I said also the gym subscription, right? So many gyms and so many people buy a gym subscription just to feel good. I have actually, I guess the same as doing a bit of charity. Like I feel good, I did some charity, right? And in that sense is I pay a gym subscription, so I'm kind of healthy and I'm kind of looking out for so you would have the same issue. You would have so many gyms that would go bankrupt if they would do it usage based, or refund me when I'm not using it. So that's why I think it has a lot of different criterias.
Or refund when you choose to go.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get
you're skinny, you don't need it anymore. No, it's like, guys, shut up. Let's go to the next topic.
That could be a cool commitment mechanism. When you go into the gym, they're like, okay, cool. What's your goal? You write it down, and it says if for this duration you achieve it, you get your full refund of the gym subscription. And gyms know anyway that people don't achieve it most of the time, so all good.
And like the truly committed people are the ones that are going to end up achieving it. Honestly, funny, but what you just said kind of reminded me of that like famous burger place in Las Vegas that has like this like 2-pound burger or 3-pound burger or something, where it's like if you manage to finish it, you don't have to pay for it or something. Yeah. Exactly. I thought of the same thing, just in the complete opposite sense of the word.
Yeah, it's like $100 or something.
But anyway, we're still on the same interview, guys. I'm just gonna mention that now. But we're gonna move on to
topic one.
We're still on topic one. And we're going to move on to probably our favorite topic, which is brand partnerships. It's a really interesting one because, again, it pertains to something that we mentioned about it, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, when we talked about Adyen acquiring Talon 1 and how this was a huge, huge acquisition, talking hundreds of millions, and about how it's still not, it's still not talked about in the media as much. Check out what Rory has to say about brand partnerships.
Will back me up on this. Brand partnerships are one of the most underrated, underused techniques in the marketing armory. And my only explanation for how little attention is paid to them is precisely because they're not very expensive. And one of the things that seems to happen in client businesses is the more expensive something is, the more people are involved in policing it. I was at a very large multinational client's media day, and there were hundreds of people.
I can imagine.
As you can imagine, because they spend $1 billion on media every year, hundreds of people there. And I bet that's, despite the fact that that very same organization has engaged in a brand partnership that has brought them, I would confidently say, $1 billion in revenue. Yeah. Okay, despite the fact they've come up with $1 billion brand partnerships are beautiful, because instead of saying, what can we buy, it asks the question, what can 2 of us do together to our mutual benefit? It's the most fundamental form of human cooperation, not transactional, but let's both work together to do something that we can't do on our own.
Yeah.
And strangely, because that's inexpensive, because cooperation is less expensive than commerce, commercial solutions to the problem, it correspondingly gets too little attention.
A very interesting take. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say about it, because the example he uses is that when a big company does its media day with its billions in budget, everybody from the media team shows up and there's always this huge to-do. And then when that same company has a brand partnership, which is usually more of like a handshake agreement, let's make a deal, we do this, you do this, it'll also bring in over $1 billion, but it just doesn't get as much media coverage. And honestly, a lot of the time, I also get a little bit perplexed over this, because it does feel like brand partnerships in general are things that should be celebrated, especially if it's like at a higher scale, if you're talking about 2 major companies and things like that. But yeah, he talks about the partnerships as one of the most underrated pieces in the marketing armory. Let's just ask that initial question. Why do you think brand partnerships like this are not as publicized or get as much media attention as anything else that they might be doing? Would be kind of curious to hear.
I don't know if he meant actually they get attention from outside. I think he meant get attention internally from the company, in the sense that the more money I spend on a certain activity, the more people are involved in that, right? Because it's a big spend. So that's why a lot of people are putting their eyes on. While on the other side, the brand partnership doesn't cost a lot of money, or like it's not a big investment. But again, they don't look at the output. That's why they don't get a lot of attention internally. My first honest thought was people are just attracted to expensive stuff. Like, no, I'm serious. Like, and you have that a lot of times with just bump up the price of your product and people just will take it more seriously. That is like a rule of thumb that a lot of people use. Okay, instead of, I don't know, charging 10K, let's do 100K. And then everybody thinks, oh my God, this must be such a crazy product and service.
The scarcity effect, yeah.
Scarcity effect. And also, again, a big price tag. People oftentimes basically take it as this must equal to good service, right? So, or good product. That's why, like, also luxury brands, I mean, certain things are completely overpriced, but then everybody wants it exactly because it's overpriced. And at the end of the day, people all have the feeling, oh my God, this must be such a good product. And since it's overpriced, not a lot of people can afford it, meaning I will be very exclusive and unique, blah, 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 in my group or whatever it is. So, and it is kind of also a status symbol. So I think that almost equals for B2C transactions as for B2B transactions. I mean, we also had that learning where we priced something very fair, and then it was looked at, can this really be good? And then as soon as you bump up the price, people actually have the feeling, oh, this must be amazing.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a really dumb thought process from my perspective. It works in a B2C setting where you want to make a clear discrimination. Like if I'm a hotel, for example, I want to have only a certain customer type, right? I want to have only, I don't know, ultra high net worth individuals. Then I ask 2K per night, although the service maybe is worth, I don't know, 500 euros per night or 500 francs per night. But just by adding that high ceiling and high barrier, not actually ceiling, the high floor, I attract only a certain amount of people, and I will actually only have a certain amount of, or a group of customers using my service that are then also communicated to their peers, right? So that can also be a tactic to really attract the right people for that specific company and product. So I get it in that sense. I don't get it in a company setting, because companies should think about return on investment. And in theory, you want to minimize costs and maximize profit, like revenue. So I agree with what he's saying. I still think it doesn't make sense to think about it like that, because at the end of the day, you should put attention on stuff that actually brings a lot of money and not costs a lot of money. You should try to minimize costs.
Do you have a take on this, Gianluca, that's different or contrary to what Gabriela said?
No, I agree. I think the only addition that I would do is that probably sometimes in bigger multinationals, there's also certain, I mean, I don't exactly know how it works, but I would imagine that there's maybe certain budgets that just have to go out. Otherwise, maybe the same concept also, of if we don't spend that budget, we haven't maximized the potential.
Yeah, which is also dumb as fuck.
Yeah, marketing spend really, that we could make return with based on our last 10 years of experience of marketing spend and revenue. So yeah, I don't know. It's yeah.
No, sorry, finish.
Go ahead,
I just said another.
Go.
No, I mean, one thing also to not forget, right? Like, I mean, these decisions are always taken by people in the company. And if you look at a brand partnership, let's say I, as a head of marketing, I talk with the other head of marketing for that specific company. We make a deal together to partner up, etc., etc. Most times there is no money going back and forth. It's like, hey, we do, for example, a press release together. We do some Instagram activity together. We do an event together, etc. Like, so you share basically costs and all of that stuff, right? On the other side, if I go to a media agency and I place them $100 million of budget, for me to place that budget, what happened before is I have a key account manager that brought me to that restaurant, that brought me to that club. So I basically I'm being kind of pampered as a buyer, right? And obviously a lot of people, my guess, I think a lot of people like that. Like, that's part of their kind of how they see the benefits of their job. Like, they get invited to events, they get invited again to restaurants and all of that stuff. And it's kind of a part of my lifestyle, right? So if I don't spend 100 millions on that specific media agency, that part falls out, because the other brand that I'm doing the partnership with, they won't, I mean, obviously also depends, but if you're peers, it's basically, okay, what activities do we do? How do we split the costs? And that's it. Nobody has to invite the other one to fancy dinners and all of that stuff. So it's also kind of the lifestyle for me as a head of marketing or whatever it is a completely different one. Because again, where I spend a lot of money on, they will also make sure that I actually spend that money. And that is mostly connected to a lot of relationship management, which is mostly connected to a lot of FaceTime and a lot of kind of having fun together.
Yeah. And that creates the other thing that I was going to add is that also creates company politics to some degree, because then that person has an agenda that's different or maybe not highly aligned with the rational decision of making a partnership happen because it costs less or not cost less, not necessarily in that sense, but the benefits that you get out of that partnership, even though it's literally just a connection versus having to use marketing spend, because you as an individual who is spending that money is being pampered in that moment. So you're going to tell your managers, no, this is for sure the way we need to go because we get the most return. Yeah, I think it's interesting from a perspective of businesses. If you say a business, you don't put faces to it. It's true. It should be rational. It should be maximizing, let's say, in the end of it all, profit, because that's excess money. And if we want to be as greedy as possible, as greedy as possible from a business perspective, obviously the end game is to just keep going to unlimited money and world domination. No, jokes aside. But if you say business, you obviously don't think about people. You think a business as a rational decision engine that makes the life of customers better in some way or another, and at the same time makes money with it. And what Gabriele describes also, what I would say is then the decisions made in the business aren't the business. They're the people.
Not aren't fully rational.
And exactly, and they're not fully rational all the time. They're not fully aligned, top down, bottom up all the time. It's and that's, I then would say, is the politics part, where the decisions are being made that aren't the most rational. And then also, and I think that's probably also what then Rory was kind of hinting at, is the fact that you do have the whole business when there's $1 billion budget being distributed, because everyone's there saying, gimme for my department. True. And that guy or that girl who's like, hey, we can speak to this other business and have this amazing partnership that's going to benefit us both. I don't need any budget for it. No one's going to be as interested in listening to that person because they want the $1 billion budget allocated to them as much as possible. And that's not going to cost anything. So I can't say I need the budget, because that activity is not going to use the budget. So,
which is so interesting, isn't it? Because it's ironically potentially better for the business, but it just will fall on deaf ears more likely. Yeah. That is curious.
People,
guys. We've already sort of hit the limit now. We've just got a couple of minutes left, but I wanted to end on one interesting notion. At the very end of the interview, Rory mentioned something. He said he said he was feeling a bit spicy, so he wanted to mention. He is a big proponent to the introduction of government loyalty programs. So he was talking about this in the sense of a mixture of socialism and capitalism, insofar as a government introduces a point system that everybody has a certain amount of these points that they can use, and that they use them for things that are more or less important to them, so they can allocate more points to things that they value. So for example, he used an example of, like, if you go to work and you have like this specific parking spot that like you really value because it's close to your office or something like that, that you allocate points to that, and then because of that, you maybe sacrifice something else, like take away points from something that maybe you don't use. And so it's like, instead of democratizing the entire thing for everybody, it is more specifically used for people. And then he adds, the extra notion of potentially buying some extra ones of these and stuff like that. And I don't know if this has ever been like talked about or mentioned or toyed with or whatever, but like the way he describes it, and of course I'm sure it's mostly because of the way he describes it, because he's just such an eloquent sort of orator. But what do you think about that concept? Like, if I just make that pitch to you, like Gabriele, if like Switzerland comes and says, hey, let's do a loyalty program, like what are the first thoughts that run through your head when something like that gets mentioned?
I mean, honestly, like, I think in general, whoever or whatever you are, implementing a system that shows a certain progress and rewards that individual or whatever it is to have a certain behavior, I think that always makes sense. So like, also as a government, if you want to have good citizens, you basically implement a way how to reward them. Makes absolutely sense. So I don't know, pay your taxes early and in full. The question is with the parking fines or with whatever fines is, do you actually get points for paying them and for creating them because that generates cash for the government, or because you
Or
don't
you get
have
less
them
if
and
you
you
have a
actually
criminal record, for example. That could
or
also be.
some stuff like that. I mean, honestly, the first thought that I had when you said it was an episode of Black Mirror where they actually
It's a
had
bad start.
they actually had a loyalty program where also others were able to rate you, right? And the higher the rating, the more
Nosedive.
access you were. Yeah, basically, yeah, right. And the for example, if you were swearing, then your rating goes down. And they had actually literal social classes that are connected to the specific rating. So you couldn't live in a certain neighborhood, and you couldn't get a certain job, and you couldn't go to a certain school and all of that stuff if you don't hit that rating, right? So it was literally kind of a tier-based program based on benefits, which is at the end of the day your life, like literally where can I live, what schools, etc. And so I think you need to be very careful on how you implement the government loyalty program, and governments are not the best example of actually implementing innovation and strong products and all of that. So they would need for sure some help. In general, I think I like the idea, but I mean, in general, I kind of have a bias to it, I think, because I like gamifying a lot of things. I mean, just to talk about AI, I just built again, like my health coach. I rebuilt it basically, and there I also integrated XP points and levels. So the more healthy I live, the more points I get. The more points I get, the higher my status, basically my own status. I mean, nobody rewards me for. I was actually thinking about what is the incentive, like how the best way would be somebody gives me cash, but the question is who gives me cash for living healthy. So that was a bit of a difficult one. And then I thought about, okay, I could put some money aside to basically reward myself, but then I was like, okay, I'm just like saving money by being healthy. It doesn't also make a lot of sense. And then I came to the point where, like, you know what, just having that feeling of kind of intrinsical motivation of seeing my points going up and my level going up, that should already be enough, right?
Oh, everyone loves XP.
See the gym that gives you back the subscription if you achieve your goals. There you go.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But it's, again, that's why I'm saying it's kind of the same logic as a dating app. Kind of how do you retain your customers? Like if you have a strong product, like a strong dating app, most probably you will lose customers because they will find the right match and they will marry. So they don't need the dating app. And so what is customer retention? You know what I mean? So it's kind of the same logic as with the gym. If I hit my goal, you give me the money back and I don't kind of need you anymore, or I can always be for free with you. It's a bit difficult. But again, like I in general like the whole topic of gamifying certain experiences, and I think it could make a lot of sense for governments to push certain behaviors. I don't know, do you want more people to vote? Give them points, and then maybe they can redeem those points on their taxes. So I think there are a lot of ways how you can do that, and that would I think help different societies to actually build a better nation.
I feel like it's so interesting if you think about, like, if you just try to get in your head about which like cultures, which kinds of people, which nationalities will embrace a system like that most likely and which ones won't, you know? Because, like, for example, I think about how big and how huge the loyalty ecosystem is in Australia. I think, okay, if the Australian government were to introduce something like this, they would probably eat that up, probably very quickly. It would. I feel like that would get adapted very fast. Or in general, maybe in Western countries, it feels that way. And also, not to mention adding that extra angle where it is the government, and there are, of course, then some privacy lines that people don't want to have crossed. And the more you think about that, the more you think about identities, the more you think about also China and the way that they probably have something like that, but it's a little bit more, dystopian and a little bit more just, we judge you, we rate you poorly, but it's in the background. You don't actually know it yourself. We're just like judging you from the government side.
you move fast in a direction. I think there, like you have to keep that very separated, because I think you could move very fast in a direction where you start rating your citizens.
Right.
And depending on their rating, you actually give them certain benefits or not. So I think it's also a matter of how do you actually set it up, how do you build it, how do you use it internally, how do you evolve it in future, etc. That it doesn't go in again a Black Mirror direction where suddenly you say, no, sorry, you can't live there. You have a rating of 3.9. You need to achieve a 4.2.
Well, gentlemen, we have been able to do it for the first time. We've been able to cover an entire podcast episode with one topic. And it has been very, very interesting, to be honest. At least it's 3 very different topics. And I think it's just a testament to how high quality that interview was. So, of course, huge shout out to LoyaltyTV and actually having that interview with him and Dan from Ogilvy. There's a lot of strong value in there, and in general, like I said, if you're someone who's curious about the behavioral side of marketing and of loyalty, Rory Sutherland is really interesting. There's also Richard Shotton. If you don't know him, he's also a British guy who's really into the whole like marketing tactics and hooking people, but cleverly in psychological ways. But yeah, let's slowly start to wrap up. I mean, the other topics that we wanted to talk about is like a very, very interesting topic, actually. And I'm sure it's probably going to then be worth its own dedicated episode, either in the next one or episode 20. So be sure to tune into that one. I think that's going to be arguably an even more interesting conversation than today. But for now, let's leave it with some closing thoughts. Gabriella, over to you. Any final things you'd like to say before we close it out for today?
No, thank you, Rory, for all the insights. And Gianluca and I really have to jump because we're already 3 minutes late to a call.
All right, sounds good. Gianluca, anything from you?
No, it was awesome. Super cool conversations.
Yeah.
And looking forward to the next one where we can then cover the ones that we also had in our repertoire.
All right. Quick outro. Guys, don't forget to follow us on all the channels and tune in 2 weeks from now for the next episode. All right. Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so
guys,
much.
get to your call. Take care, guys.